Other meal deals leave you craving more.
But wait, there's Marco's.
Marco's Pizza gives you more with our new More menu. More pizza, savory sides, decadent desserts, and more. Starting at just $5 each when you spend $7.99 or more. Try Marco's More menu.
But wait, new breadsticks.
Oh, yeah. Try Marco's More menu.
But wait, new 6-piece wings.
Try Marco's.
But wait, new chocolate Cinnasquares.
We're gonna need more airtime. Minimum spend required. Use code More menu with $7.99 minimum spend or code Get More with $8.99 minimum spend. Tiered prices higher at certain locations. Valid on the More menu only. Restrictions apply.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app. Extra 106.3 and a Second Chance Bail Bonds are proud to bring you Justice Unfiltered. Real conversations with real people from every side of the justice system. From the latest in law and order to the voices of those impacted, changed, and working to make a difference. This is where truth meets transformation. Now, it's time for Justice Unfiltered, presented by a Second Chance Bail Bonds on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome to Justice Unfiltered. My name is Tug Cowart, along with Daniel Matalon, the CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. How are you, man?
Doing well.
What you been up to? Traveling a bunch?
Actually, no. I've been in town for yes, and I'm real happy about it.
Very surprising.
Yes,
Normally a guy that's on the road.
Next week, I'm on the road.
That's right. Our guest today, part of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives called NOBLE, National and Georgia chapter. We've got Chief Rodney Bryant, a distinguished law enforcement leader with over 34 years of dedicated service, a prominent figure in the Atlanta Police Department, appointed the 25th Chief of Police following his term as interim chief during the city's unrest in 2020. Our other guest this morning, Miss Natalie Ammons, currently the Director of Communication for the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, and also a chapter president of NOBLE here in Georgia. How are y'all today?
Doing well.
Doing absolutely wonderful.
It's so good to see you, man, and
Glad
we
to be
appreciate
here.
y'all taking the time out. And I want you to know that you're the first guests on the rebranded Justice Unfiltered show.
Yes, very excited, very honored.
Well, let me tell you.
Absolutely.
The reason I bring that up is because as I stumble and stammer around trying to get the name right, y'all know what's happening. So you'd be like, this guy, hang on, he does this for a living and he can't even get the name of the show right? You'll know. Yeah, you'll know what's actually going on. So y'all are part of NOBLE, founded in 19. Founded in 1976 up in Washington, D.C. by 60 black law enforcement executives, celebrating 50 years next year. How'd you get involved? Like, what was the way that you became involved in the organization?
I think many of us have different paths getting in there. For me, coming from Atlanta Police Department, many of the members of the Atlanta Police Department, especially the executive teams, were part of NOBLE. And so they actually encouraged many of the up-and-coming leadership to join. And a number of my friends were also a part of NOBLE. And so when I got to NOBLE and when I was introduced to it, I saw the great things that were coming from it. The training was phenomenal. And so I became a part of it through just being introduced to it through the leadership and mentors before me.
And if there's anything we know, training is the most important. It doesn't matter if you're working on computers or you're working in law enforcement. Training is the utmost importance if you're trying to get it right.
Yeah, training is critical to law enforcement because so much changed so rapidly. Right now, AI is taking over in every aspect, and so law enforcement is playing a role in that as well. As much as our culture and our society changes, law enforcement has to do it as well. We are typically slow to move behind what is happening, and that's why you find so many controversies in law enforcement. But NOBLE tried to stay cutting edge and ahead of all of that. And so, again, just proud of the training that we received from it.
Ms. Ammons, how about yourself? How did you get involved with Noble?
So for me, when I was at the GBI, there's something called voluntold.
Yes. I was in the United States Navy. I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah, but let me tell you, it's one of the best things that could have happened to me. I actually started out just kind of helping. My first experience with Noble was we hosted a national conference here in Atlanta in 2001. And so I was, very much behind the scenes and helping out with the conference. And then, one of the past national presidents for Noble worked at the GBI. And so his name is Moses Ector. And he was very, very, he always encouraged, all of us to be a part of it. For me, like I said, it was, it opened so many doors for me because personally I worked in public safety law enforcement for over 30 years, but I'm not a sworn officer. So, it gave some leadership opportunities for me as a professional staff, but in this public safety space.
Talk about what you do with the Fulton County Sheriff's Department, too.
So right now I'm with the Sheriff's Office in Fulton. I've been there for 2 years. I do public affairs, anything public relations. We run the social media. So anything external dealing with the citizens of Fulton County, we do that. And previously I worked 30 years at the GBI, and the last 5 years I was there, I did similar work, public affairs, but I also did governmental affairs as well, so policy and legislative liaison.
Yeah. So tell us about the Noble organization, the mission. Let's go into the mission of what they want to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. So our mission is primarily making sure that there's equity as it relates to law enforcement throughout our country. And so we do that by justice by action. And so what that really entails is when anything is happening throughout the country as it relates to law enforcement, Noble wants to be a part of it. And we understand that some communities have some issues when it comes to law enforcement. And we tend to go in those communities and try to work on both sides because sometimes there is a fraction there, or there's a break, or there's a misunderstanding. And so Noble tends to go in those and try and shore that up. Additionally, we want to make sure that we are training up-and-coming leaders, as Natalie stated, and how I was affected by it as well. As we grow up, we are equipped with the tools to be in leadership as it relates to law enforcement and have an understanding of both community and law enforcement. Sure. And it tends to work out pretty well. Natalie,
it's so important. Relationships are the foundation of everything that we do, right? How we interact with each other is the most imperative. It doesn't matter if it's in a business sense or at church or at the corner store picking up bread or stopping to get gas. Relationships are the most important thing that we can develop, and it sounds like Noble is on the cutting edge of developing good relationships.
Absolutely, especially with the community and with our youth, especially. We never want a young person's first experience with law enforcement to be something traumatic, which oftentimes it is. And so we work very hard to, like you said, developing those relationships. And then going back to the mission, also part of the mission is we are the conscience of law enforcement. So you think of conscience, it's that little voice in your head that tells you right from wrong. To tell you what's right from wrong. And so with that, we're not asking for unfair treatment or for to be favored, but we are asking for it to be fair.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that's all anybody could ask in life is to have a fair shot, right? At anything. It doesn't matter if you're talking about on the ball field or you're talking about in law enforcement. I think just asking for a fair shake is all anybody mainly asks for in life. Daniel, I want to bring you in, of course, the CEO of Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. What's your relationship with Noble? How did you get introduced to them?
So how I found out about Noble was through Sheriff Labatt and Sheriff Owens and Sheriff Taylor in Gwinnett County. And then we're working on trying to figure out how Second Chance can support Noble on the national level. Hopefully that will present itself. But what's really cool about Noble and why I support it, because there's a lot of people, they bring in the new membership and tie it to the top of the old membership, and that's what keeps these associations going. There's so many businesses and associations I see out there where that's where the failure happens, right? So that's where you go wrong. And they're doing this so well because I know a lot of the people that came in 2020 that are, fresh into not into the community, but into their roles, and they've done a phenomenal job, and they continue to do it. So I can support something like that.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. The handoff. What's been the relationship from y'all's perspective with Daniel and A Second Chance?
So with Daniel being supportive of the sheriffs, especially our sheriffs in Georgia, and all of those sheriffs that you name are Noble members.
Right.
And so they absolutely, for us to get the private partnership,
sure,
it's huge.
Imperative
because
almost.
we are a nonprofit
Sure.
organization, and so the sponsorships and the support that we get from organizations like yourself help us put those trainings on, because sometimes cost may be an issue for training and may cause officers not to be able to go. And so we are able to do more things to host our meetings and not put as much cost onto our members so they can come and learn and have a great time. So we love the support.
Chief, have you been able to interact with Daniel and his team?
Not to the same extent as clearly at the onset of all the sheriffs coming together and us meeting during that time, but just to expound on something Natalie said.
Yes, sir.
So our title, National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Office Executive, was created in 1976. And even though that title sounds very defined, it is much broader than what it alludes to. We're a national organization, but in reality today we are actually international.
Yep.
We're not just a black organization. We're a very inclusive organization of a very diverse level of memberships. And we're not just law enforcement. We're actually criminal justice and public safety, which encompasses all. And so I'd like to tell people public safety requires all of us to include Daniel in your organization. Any society as a whole has a role to play in public safety.
Yes, sir.
And so though the title is defined, we are much broader than our title.
I'm glad you
alludes
said
on.
that because, I mean, all of a sudden you just opened the conversation to people listening right now saying, why would I be interested in that? Right. And now all of a sudden that door is open and it's a much more welcoming invitation for everybody. I think it's so imperative that you say that. I'm glad you did. When we come back on Extra 106.3 and Justice Unfiltered, we talk about the key national objectives because we brushed across that, but I want to figure out how do we get those accomplished. Talk about that next here on Extra 106.3.
This is Justice Unfiltered, presented by A Second Chance Bail Bonds on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
Welcome back to Justice Unfiltered on Extra 106.3 with Daniel Matalon of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tug Cowart, along with Chief Rodney Bryant, retired, and we have Miss Natalie Ammons, who is the Director of Communications for the Fulton County Sheriff's Office and a chapter president for NOBLE, the National Association of Black Law Enforcement Executives. In today, we've talked about some of the things that are important to the organization and who it's open to. The fact that it's not, even though the way you laid it out, Chief, was that it's a very defined name and title. It's a very, very broad organization in who it speaks to and who it works with. And we talked about some of the objectives, making sure that everybody gets a fair shake and everybody has a fair playing field, which I think everybody in the whole country would agree with and wants to see that, or at least fair-minded people do. But then the next question is, how do you get it done? And we'll start with you, Chief.
So we get it done actually through the chapters. What Natalie role as a chapter president is what actually holds up this organization. And so, and they mimic a lot of what the national organization puts out. It is critical for us as an organization to make sure that we are developing executives because that is what this organization is about, is making sure that we are equipping executives with the tools necessary to go out and and work these organizations and those communities together. As a chief of police, one of the things, and so many chiefs of police, especially at the major city chief level, have a very short tenure. And we don't matriculate up and through the ranks the same way a person may do in a corporate America. And we don't get the typical same training as one will get in corporate America to become a CEO. Yet you have some of the same responsibilities. Noble tries to fill in that gap by making sure that we're giving them the tools necessary to be equipped to operate at that level. And we do it, again, not just black leadership. We cover the spectrum with our training and our membership. And it has fared well. I would say that about 40% to 50% of major city chiefs are members of Noble.
Okay.
Why is the tenure so short at the top? What? Because I don't think I know what that, like, why at the top?
It's so unique because we're tied to a political figure, and a lot of times when it's like coaching baseball teams and football teams and things of that nature, when the chief of police is almost like the quarterback. And if things doesn't look right, we're not winning the way that the coach thinks that it is either the coach
in this case,
or the quarterback has to go. Sure. And so
usually it's quarterback first and then the coach next.
And that's what it is.
That's
and
right.
so it's very similar to that.
Yeah.
And
so you spend your whole life, 30 years, 20 years, and then it's like, boom,
yeah.
flash.
But now what you tend to find is that leadership and that style leadership is in great demand. And so they will go from one agency to the next agency.
Which we've
because
seen.
that leadership is very hard to find, to get someone at that level to operate as a chief executive officer of a law enforcement agency.
Yeah, it's funny. Right before you, I wrote down the word leadership. That's what I was waiting on because I think that's the most important. There's not an organization that can run with poor leadership. It's just not one. Doesn't matter if it's a business, doesn't matter if it's a governmental agency.
While we're on the topic of leadership, let's go back to 2020 when Chief Bryant, and I've been in Atlanta since 2003. I've never been in a crazier time than when he was leading the city of Atlanta as the chief of police. Yeah. And I want to tell you what a great job you did, number one, because that I was here in the flesh, and obviously I have an office downtown Atlanta, and that was wild.
Yeah.
And thank you for your service in that deal, because that was wild.
What's your mindset as all of this is coming down? Because it seems like the country is just pulling apart at the seams. That's a big job to be the face of a huge city with so many people from so many different places. Some people are angry. Some people are dismissive. You have it runs the gambit. How do you get prepared to lead the way you did?
So that's a great question. I think it was everything that I had learned before getting into that position. I actually retired initially as the assistant chief, which is the number 2 person at the city of Atlanta. And everything I had learned up until that point had well prepared me. All my mentors had well prepared me for that. Now, no one expected anything like we saw in 2020. No one. It had never happened in the history of law enforcement. Sure. It had not happened in the history of our country for us to see anything like that. But just coming up through the ranks and having opportunities as a deputy chief to lead the college football championship and then the Super Bowl and being an officer during the Olympic, all those things prepare you for things that you just wouldn't expect. And then being able to lean on my other colleagues throughout law enforcement. There were so many phone calls and so many Zoom calls where we were leaning upon each other to say, how do we navigate this together? What is it that we could do when all of society has shut down, yet law enforcement has to stay, and people are concerned about family members dying during COVID. I mean, it was a very unique time, but we relied upon each other in the training. We talk together quite often, just discussing. We beat stuff off of each other, bounce stuff off of each other to see what worked, what didn't work, and we move forward. So I was, as strangely as it may sound, I felt well prepared for something that we had not seen before.
Doesn't sound strange at all. It sounds like preparation. As a guy that was served in the Navy, I mean, I've seen some of the the best leaders that I would follow to this day. If they told me, hey, this is the way we got to go, that's why I'm going, because I trusted them. And it is clear that there was a lot of trust in you from a lot of people around you. Who were those mentors? Because that's, I think, is the most important, right? Having those role models in your life. Father, grandfather, of course, those are the foundational ones. But as you go through your life as a police officer, the people that mentored you then, and maybe even mentored you when you were at your highest level as a chief, are there still mentors at that level? And would you maybe give them a little praise? Would you maybe tell us who some of those people are that got you into the right mindset over the years?
First, I'll always acknowledge Chief George Turner, who is my chief of police. I would call him quite often during that time. Chuck Ramsey.
Yes, sir.
I would, who was the chief in Philadelphia and in D.C., I would talk to him on a regular basis as well. Michael Harrison, who was the chief in Boston during that time, I would pick up the phone and talk to him. And Sean Ferguson, who was out of New Orleans. And so I had the opportunity to talk to chiefs nationally. But again, being able to, all the sheriffs, every sheriff in the metro area, I would be able to pick up the phone and have a conversation with.
It was really cool because I knew a lot of them at the time. Sure. And everybody was kind of just coming in. And I remember just the chaos that had ensued around all this stuff, but really everybody coming together. And that's people from GSP, people from municipalities, sheriff's office, APD. I mean, all around the board, because it was wild. I mean, they had officers on the street, and you were watching people just launch rockets, bottle rockets. I mean, firing them at people. I mean, it's insanity. I mean, it's like
Mike Register, who was who's up here in Cobb. And I would talk to so many different people during that time, and it took that to get, because we were facing something, going through something that none of us had ever experienced in life. And so I think that we did a phenomenal job being able to lean upon each other. Yeah. And then you have to understand, Atlanta and Georgia was unique in the nation because we were one of the few states that were almost completely open during that time. Yeah. And so we had to manage through that as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
Go ahead.
If
I may, I was going to say, but that's one of the beautiful things about this organization is the network. And so you may have a young officer that's just starting, been on a couple years, and he comes to a chapter meeting, and George Turner is there. Yeah. Chief Turner, he's still very active in the organization. And so, you don't, where you may never get to meet Chief Turner or get to meet Chief Bryant or any of the sheriffs, you have access to them, and that access is huge because, like you said, it's about those relationships that you built. And so, what they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Sometimes and so for sure, that's one thing that we really one of the benefits of membership, when we tell people, if they may ask, what is this? What's in it for me? It was like, you have access to this network that is unbelievable.
It's funny because a lot of times they'll say college will do that for you, because you build a network of people that you go into school with. Mm-hmm. Sports, I think, really build a gigantic network, even down to high school sports. And then for not necessarily the players, but the parents, the coaches, the umpires, even in youth sports, right? You're building a network that whole time. And there's definitely mentors in those kind of roles, people that you ask questions. Hey, here's what I've run into on our team. It could be as simple as a play. This play, looking for this special play. We're going to win the game with it. Or I'm looking for a way to cut through the noise and talk to kids on a level that maybe is, we're going to frame it with sports, but this is going to be a greater life lesson. And I think those mentor roles come out there, just like you were talking about. And I love the way you put it, Chief, when you talk about the things that you've never experienced before, and all those people that you named off, and I'm sure many, or if not all, the officers, like they're looking for a good solution. Like we want to do good for our community, we want to do good for our city and our state and our country as a whole. How do we get there? Sometimes there's some tough bridges to cross to get to good.
Yeah. This profession is so unique. I spoke just recently in North Virginia, and I was explaining to them, about the leadership and as well as the dynamics of being in this profession. The leadership of this profession is we are one of the few people that can get fired by being at home and an officer does something in the street that night.
That's right. You get fired for something somebody else did.
The chief can get fired for that. But that individual has to also understand the responsibility that's placed upon him. That society doesn't just get upset and didn't wake up just because you did an incident. There's a history behind that, and you have to understand that level of history.
Yes, sir.
And you have to operate in accordance to that history. And you have to also understand that responsibility, that it's not just your level of authority that you have, but you have a responsibility
For sure.
to manage that authority properly. And that's what people are judging you on, not because you did something. It's on how you handled it.
Yes, sir.
And so, again, this is where this organization comes into play, and having conversation even with individuals who aren't members of Noble. We reach out to chiefs and say, how can we help? You had an incident. How can we help you with that? What is it that we can come in and do?
Get to that good
help
solution.
You? Absolutely.
That's right.
And not just when it's a community issue. We may see something where it's an incident may break out and it's something tragic, where we have leaderships in our organization that have experienced something very similar to that, and we try to tie those chiefs together as well.
When it comes to the profession of policing, I feel like we're trending in the right direction now, where it does seem to be more of a healthy balance between, hey, we're going to hold people accountable when they do something wrong, but we're not going to demonize police officers, right? Because I felt like that's where we were for a long time. Does Noble help in the recruiting process for new officers?
Absolutely. Clearly, both of us.
And do you see people wanting to come back to the profession?
Yeah. So what we here in Noble, one of the things that we were able to do is target groups of people who typically wouldn't come. That was our primary objective, to target people who typically wouldn't come into this profession. And so we were targeting HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, because they typically wouldn't come in and didn't have an understanding of what all this criminal justice and public safety has to offer. Again, as diverse as we are in experience, we have that same level of diversity in profession. There are doctors, lawyers, statisticians, mathematicians. Law enforcement encompasses all of those. And so people who are coming out of college, PI, public information officers,
PIOs,
and so
or PIO,
PIOs. Yeah. We encompass all of that in this profession. And so when you're coming out of college, this may not be your final spot, but it is clearly a great stepping stone to come out and say, let me experience you won't get any greater experience than what you can get in public safety, in your training, and being able to step and move forward. And so that's why we are so critical as it relates to helping in recruitment in this profession. Because, like you said, in 2020, 2021, we start a downturn because of the sentiments and how people felt about this profession. But right now we're up on the upswing, and Noble is in the trenches as it relates to that, trying to do what they can to help agencies who may be struggling.
Healing that a little bit.
Yes.
I think it's great. And I will say about the law enforcement profession, I've always thought when you're giving back, you get more than even the people that you're giving to, right? Whether it's a charity or whatever you're involved with. the ultimate joy comes to you. You may not realize it in the moment. And I feel like law enforcement has a big element of that. Do you think that's the case, Natalie?
I think so, because actually, and Chief Bryant says this a lot, he likes to say public safety, because actual law enforcement is just a small portion of what these officers are doing every single day. So, it's not just enforcing laws, it's building the community, building those relationships, and, of course, keeping them safe. But working with college students, specifically Clark Atlanta University here, we have a collegiate chapter of Noble, and they've been very active. They've done some great work. They've done a lot of community service projects on campus, and they've done some criminal justice reform panels. But when talking to these students, they are not so much apprehensive about being an actual officer. Their concerns are more what comes after the arrest. So what happens in the jail? Will they get a fair trial? How will they be treated? And so with that, we are, recruiting for the criminal justice system. We need good prosecutors, we need good public defenders, and judges and legislators, because while
it's all spokes in the wheel.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, these laws are just simply being enforced. And so to really make real change is, it's your state senators and your state representatives. And so it's a constant education process about, just what goes on in the system, criminal justice system, and then just really, showing them that that's something that that they can do, letting them see themselves as an officer on the street. So we've done really good at that.
I thought you were going to go into the space of the stuff that we do that's even outside of our community service that we do outside of that, and I'm really proud of that. I can't remember what year that we responded to Hurricane Rita in New Orleans.
Well, the first one was 2000.
That was Hurricane Rita, I want to say.
Well, no, it wasn't her. It was just the flooding in Baton Rouge.
That's right.
That was the very first one.
We responded to that, where we did a collect. And again, we had never done anything like this before. And I think our president at the time was Clarence Cobb.
So you guys got out on the road and went to Louisiana.
Did the collection here in Atlanta.
Right, and then drove it.
The Civic Center parking lot.
In the Civic Center parking lot. Took everything to Baton Rouge to help out that community. And again, we did it here in Atlanta, took it to Baton Rouge because of the network between our organizations. And then after that, that became more and more of something that we began to do. And our partners, I'd be remiss if we didn't, and Natalie works even more closely in that space, and I'd be remiss if we didn't mention our partners as it relates to that.
So we, back then, we partnered with, there's a nonprofit in Atlanta called Caring for Others, which is a humanitarian organization. And so her name is Esleen Richmond-Shockley. She's the founder and CEO. So she provides new clothing, shoes, hygiene supplies, and the basics. The basics, but the key is everything is new. Because she says, well, you just lost everything. You want to clothe everybody with dignity. You wouldn't want to have something the secondhand. So that was the main thing. And so by her providing the main essentials, and then like Chief Bryant said, we did a collection from the public to bring, like toilet paper and, tools and all of that stuff. And then we partnered with the Georgia Motor Trucking Association. So every time that we have taken trucks, whether it be to Louisiana, to Florida, anywhere.
South Georgia.
We have not had to bear costs because the Motor Trucking Association they cover the drivers and the and the trucks, and then our partnership with the media as well, because to get the word out that we're doing the collections, that we're taking the donations, we've taken monetary donations, and so it has. Once we did that first one, I think maybe 6 months later, there was tornadoes in South Georgia, and so then we did that. So then it's like, and of course,
It's always something.
It's always something. And so the name of it is Convoy of Care.
Yeah.
And so we have really brought a lot of relief, but it was especially and what it was about was bringing relief to the people in those areas that couldn't leave. So our law enforcement, a lot of the requests that we would get is, boots,
Sure.
Shovels and things. And so, when, officers, they had to send their families away, but they had to stay there on the ground. So just really taking care of them, first and foremost, and then coming back into the community afterwards.
And we
after
wanted
the
people to see that we were more than just law enforcement.
That's
That we
right.
had a civic responsibility to the society that we serve.
That speaks
and
volumes,
that's what
too.
was beyond that.
Yeah. I love what you said, Mrs. Shockley said, the new versus used thing. I don't think many people would think about it in that moment.
Right.
But thinking so far ahead and being prepared, and I can totally see where that matters. Like,
Yes.
It wouldn't have been what I thought of. I just
Right.
so having her to think about it ahead of time is really, really good. And then to the
Yes.
point of just giving back, because that's the ultimate. I mean, there's nothing. You'll be the recipient. I know it doesn't sound right. Good book tells me you'll be the recipient when you're giving back. When we come back on the final segment here of Justice Unfiltered, I want to know what sets apart the Georgia chapter of Noble, and then I want to get into how our listeners and others can get involved with Noble. Next on Justice Unfiltered on Extra 163.
Now back to Justice Unfiltered, presented by a Second Chance Bail Bonds on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
Welcome back to Justice Unfiltered. My name is Tug Cowart, along with Daniel Matalon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. We got Chief Bryant with us and Miss Natalie Ammons of Noble here with us today. I want to get into what sets the Georgia chapter of Noble apart from everybody else. Who wants to tell? I'll let y'all volley it up. It made the most sense. I'll be respectful about it.
Not to brag or anything. So there are about 60 chapters nationwide, and the Georgia chapter, I did confirm this. This is a true fact. We are the largest chapter.
Let's go.
In the country,
Indeed.
Georgia
Indeed.
chapter. And so the past few years, we've won the recruitment awards. Yeah, a recruitment drive. So we bring the most new members into the organization.
So how many members are there in Georgia?
Right now,
Roughly,
we are
I mean.
close to about 400.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, close to 400.
That's a good sign. Nationally,
It
Noble's
is,
what?
We're
little less
on
than 5,000.
5,000.
Oh, wow.
Little under 5,000.
Big group.
Yeah. And so, and then just in general, the Southeast, the region, so the country's broken up into 6 regions. So the Southeast region is Region 3, and we're the biggest region in the country as well. And so, I think one of the main reasons why we continue to excel in our membership is that we are doing all these things in the community, and the people see it, and it's something that they want to be a part of. So, we have a very robust, social media presence on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, and it's just really focusing on our community service and then the accomplishment of our members.
Yes, ma'am.
And like I said, just to show an officer or a community person that these are the people that are making up the Georgia chapter, and that you can work with them and be a part of what they're doing. I think it really draws people to it.
I think so too. Chief, anything you could add? Especially from the actual law enforcement professional side, or even the public safety side.
Uniquely enough, what I see different in the Georgia chapter, and as well as Georgia law enforcement altogether, is we tend to have this southern relationship. We become friends.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking my language.
Right.
We do. One of the things when I was sitting in the seat, and Chief Shearbaum says he's continued it, is I would have lunch with all the executives that were in the seat. We would quarterly meet in each other's region, Clayton County, DeKalb County, in Cobb, and we would have lunch and sit, and Georgia State Patrol, GBI, would come to those luncheons, and we would sit and talk, and we built a relationship. So we weren't just colleagues. We became friends. And the chapter does the exact same thing. We aren't just colleagues. We don't just meet up because we're Noble members. Sheriff Scandrick, Sheriff Labatt, Sheriff Craig Owens, and Kebo Taylor, all of us are actually friends. And so we come together as friends as well. And that strengthens our commitment to the organization.
Called Southern Hospitality.
Which you never really saw in the Metro. Like what
in your experience as
in my experience in over 20 years in the bail industry, I guess going back to 2003 when I first started working in it. Yeah. I mean, it was a shift that happened, and it's almost like a fraternity of some sort, sorority, fraternity, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but it's really phenomenal to watch from afar as someone on the outside where I have no skin in the game.
Yeah.
It makes no difference to me.
I remember a time that there were leaderships didn't get along. They just really did not get along.
Impossible to get anything done.
And you don't see that today, that we pick up the phone and talk to each other as friends.
Okay, so now we've laid out the positives. What are the challenges?
Challenges. Well, as my boss, Sheriff Labatt, would say, we don't have challenges. We have opportunities.
Okay. What are the opportunities?
You're going to hear that about 10 times.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wait
when the sheriff gets in. Because I've been waiting. I've met every other sheriff in the Metro.
Sometime in 2025.
He's coming.
Sheriff Labatt in here.
Coming.
What are the opportunities, Natalie?
I think the opportunities are definitely to just to continue our work and continue to keep showing up when those controversial things happen, that we have a voice, because a lot of times people will look to Noble to actually to take a stand on something and to really speak out when there are some things that may seem unfair. You mentioned at the top of the show that we'll be celebrating our 50th anniversary next year in 2026, and so at the time when the organization was founded in 1976, there was not a lot of Black leadership in law enforcement. But today, that's so different. We have lots of Black leadership just across the country, but the issues that we deal with, we still got them 50 years later. Yeah. So the organization is still relevant, and it can still be helpful for sure.
How do people get involved? Listeners get involved with the many aspects of Noble and the broad array of things that y'all are involved with.
Right. So, our membership, we welcome law enforcement, but then also community partners as well. The eligibility to be a member is that you agree with the mission, and that is, equity and the administration of justice and justice by action. And so, to be a member of the Georgia chapter, you have to join the national organization. So there are different levels of membership. So the national website is www.noblenational.org. And then the Georgia chapter's website is www.ganoble.org. And so on our Georgia chapter website, you can see all the things that we do here locally. We have a scholarship program every year where we give young college students money. We give the money directly to them, and we always have good support from our corporate partners who sometimes sponsor those scholarships. Like I said, we also have our collegiate chapter over at Clark Atlanta University, and we are looking to form another collegiate chapter in Savannah at Savannah State University. And so just really developing young people and developing, just making them want to be a part of this profession for sure. But then also, and Chief Bryant did a really good job of this during his presidency and upcoming his presidency, just really trying to develop those officers who we already have getting them prepared to take those leadership roles. Because Chief Bryant's retired. I retired once. I don't know if Sheriff Labat's going to let me retire again, but I don't know. Right.
Chief's coming out next year.
I know, exactly. But, it's so, for continuity, it's so important that we build these up-and-coming leaders, and they have they have no idea the opportunities that they have to have access to these great minds, all these hundreds of years of experience. It's priceless.
That's right. Handing down that wisdom, so important. Can't thank you enough for coming in to talk about Noble, the mission, and how important it is. And we're just grateful for the time you've spent with us. Thank you. And I know everybody listening gained so much and has either they now know about the organization or have a better understanding, which is fantastic.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Thank you and there's room for you all in our organization as well. Listen, it's not just as I stated, we're not just a law enforcement organization. We are a public safety organization.
Yes, so important.
And so
I've talked.
If you care about public safety and
who doesn't
align with our mission, there's room for you here.
I can't imagine anybody saying,
that's cool.
Public
That's
safety,
good.
no
That's
interest
good
there.
Right.
There's no way anybody says that.
And I did just want to add one more thing. Diversity. Nowadays, that may seem like a dirty word, or a lot of people, are afraid to use it, but we absolutely are promoting. Diversity is still so much needed in policing because you are dealing with a diverse population. Communities are diverse, and so you cannot have a non-diverse law enforcement agency or organization. And so we absolutely do still promote diversity, and it's very, very important.
It's so important because our cultures are different. You can go into one community and they operate completely different. They are part of our fabric, but they operate different. And if you don't understand that,
everybody's background's different.
That's right.
I mean,
and they can be problematic. And so that's one of the things that we teach inside of our organization is that there are cultural differences. There are generational differences.
Sure. Yes. That's right.
My granddaughter speaking a language that I just really don't understand.
Yeah, right.
And we need younger people, which is part of that diversity, to be able to marry us together.
Love it. A lot of wisdom being shared today on Justice Unfiltered with Daniel Matalon of A Second Chance Bail Bonds. Chief, thank you. Miss Ammons, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate everything y'all provided today. And keep listening to Extra 106.3.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app.
Other meal deals leave you craving more?
But wait, there's Marco's.
Marco's Pizza gives you more with our new More menu. More pizza, savory sides, decadent desserts, and more. Starting at just $5 each when you spend $7.99 or more. Try Marco's More menu.
But wait, new breadsticks.
Oh, yeah. Try Marco's More menu.
But wait, new 6-piece wings.
Try Marco's.
But wait, new chocolate Cinesquares.
We're gonna need more airtime. Minimum spend required. Use code More menu with $7.99 minimum spend or code Get More with $8.99 minimum spend. Tiered prices higher at certain locations. Valid on the More menu only. Restrictions apply.
Buying a car shouldn't be a mystery. Hi, I'm Stacey Ellis, Vice President of the Jim Ellis Automotive Group. At Jim Ellis, we believe in complete transparency because you deserve to know exactly what you're getting. That's why we show you all the numbers, no hidden fees, no surprises. We explain every option clearly so you can make the right decision with confidence. And if you ever have questions, we have answers. Our team is here to guide you, making sure you're informed and in control every step of the way. At Jim Ellis Automotive, we don't want to sell you just any car. We want to help you buy the right car, because doing the right thing for you is what matters most to us. Experience car buying the way it should be. Honest, straightforward, and built around you. And don't forget, Jim Ellis buys cars too. It's the safe and easy way to get maximum value for your car. To get started, visit one of our 21 convenient locations across Metro Atlanta or shop online at jimellis.com. The quick, easy, and convenient way to search and compare more than 5,500 cars, trucks, and SUVs. Jim Ellis Automotive, where you can always expect the best.